He asked for the harshest truth I had. I told him our kid might not be his, and he just stared. A week ago, I gave my husband the truth he asked for, and not the one he was ready for. We were sitting on the floor of our apartment, eating food and sipping wine out of our glasses like we used to do whenever we were happy. We were talking about everything and how far we've gone, both good and bad parts of our journey. And then he asked me, "What's the hardest truth you've never told me?" I don't know what he thought I'd say. That I hated his problematic mother who has given us enough headache, or that I still stalk my ex's social media sometimes, or that I hated him when things were rough, but instead, I gave him the truth of our reality. I couldn't lie anymore. I wasn't at peace with my decision anymore. I told him that our daughter might not be his, and immediately those words left my mouth. My husband just stared hard at me. He was completely speechless, and I honestly didn't know what to say to erase the awkward quietness that clouded us. Then, after a few seconds, he broke the life-threatening silence and asked if I was telling the truth, or I was just joking because I didn't have anything harsh to say. I told him that sometimes the truth might not seem believable, but that doesn't mean it's actually impossible. That's what was harsh about it. He asked me why I told him that. I said because he asked for the truth, and I didn't want to lie. Then again, my husband became mute. His eyes fought me more emotionally than any worse situation I have been through. It was clear that he was heartbroken. Anyone would, honestly. I didn't cry or beg my husband. I didn't even say I was sorry because I'm not sure I was. I just felt bad for him, and also I wanted to set myself free from his brother's claws. Then he stood up and walked away without a word. I understood his pains, but my pains of letting my secret out was beyond his. He came back hours later. Then he packed a few of his stuff and left the house. I didn't stop him because I thought he needed space and some time to come in terms with the truth. I told him I won't stop him from getting mad and acting up because I know how hard it is for him to swallow those words. So I only asked him for his understanding and that I'll be patiently waiting till when he's less angry and ready to come back home. Then we'd discuss everything properly. He didn't say a word in response to me, though. He only went to our daughter's room to tell her goodbye before leaving, and that he had a work emergency and would come back in a few days. I was grateful for the lies, though, because that also meant he was coming back for us, and he wasn't going to abandon me entirely. The real father of our daughter is his brother. He had no idea yet, and I was surprised he didn't jump right into asking me who the biological father was before he decided to get upset. I thought maybe he didn't want to know about it because he wanted to pretend like he never heard the truth and was still in the dark, because that was the only way that he was going to cope moving forward. But I was delusional to think that. I truly was, because my husband had other plans. The incident between me and his brother was not something I ever thought was going to happen between us. When I was first introduced to my husband's family, I hated his brother. Not just his brother, the mother too, and the fakeness of the sister. As much as they were family, they were not really people I would rely on, and the feeling was mutual. We all hated ourselves, and it was obvious, but we just tried to keep it under wraps, for my husband's sake. I can't really define the reason behind the hatred. I really can't. But I just knew I was never really accepted into the family from the very first day. It's just because my husband loved me genuinely and was ready to do anything for me. That's the only reason we were still together. It's not that his family was totally bad. I just couldn't stand them, and they couldn't stand me equally. His sister was too fake, always pretending to be nice, but it never felt real. And his mother, she wanted to be involved in our affairs all the time, and I didn't like that at all. She didn't know how to stay out of what didn't concern her, but we found a way to live with it, somehow. A magical change happened when his brother started acting friendly towards me. I mean, that was weird, but I welcomed it. I didn't have a choice. People deserve second chances. That was strictly my thought. I never knew it would lead me into a different path. His excuses were that he just couldn't continue with his rude attitude towards me because I was family, and he wanted to respect his brother's decision to keep me in his life. He said maybe we could mend our relationship, and that he also realized I was not totally bad like he expected. He even apologized for acting rudely towards me. I forgave him for his ignorance and bad temper, and right after that we got along quite well. How he went from that person to being the father of my daughter is something I never imagined. I know right now a lot is going through your minds, and most of you are already judging me. But trust me, I didn't do it out of revenge or loneliness or some soap opera backstory. It was just one of those blurry, impulsive nights that don't look real the next morning. My husband was out that night. He wasn't coming back. His brother came by looking for him. I told him my husband wasn't around and offered him dinner. After that, we chit-chatted, and then he told me how proud he was of his brother and how he now sees why his brother was so into me. We laughed, and he told me I was fun and a great company. Then the next moment, we were already in each other's mouths and pants. I was mad at myself for letting that happen. I couldn't even believe I let myself do that. The next day, he left very early in the morning. We went back to pretending nothing happened. But sadly, it did happen. The second time it happened was when I went over to my husband's family house. He asked me to help him drop off some stuff for his mom. How could I refuse? I had to go there. Also, his brother and I had already promised ourselves never to go back to that moment again. It was a stupid mistake, so we were so over it. When I got there, his mother and sister were not back from work yet, so it was just the brother around. Although we had promised never to, we went against our words. His brother was acting all flirtatious, and my brain couldn't forget how amazing I felt when he was inside of me, so I gave in. That was shameless of me, but I promise it was the last time it ever happened. When I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't sure if it was my husband, but I needed it to be. And honestly, it probably was. They're brothers, same blood, same build. But the timeline cut too close for comfort. So I couldn't confidently tell myself who the father was. Then I shut it down entirely, because it didn't matter as long as my husband would always be the father in her life. I didn't need to know anything else. I convinced myself to let it be like that. Then I cut every connection with his brother. We were entirely done. I started giving him space, and I told him to respect his brother's wife. He was a bit furious with the way I was acting, but he knew it was the right thing to do. So he gave me space again, and we went back to how our relationship was from the very beginning. I was grateful. I couldn't bear losing my world because of some sick carelessness, and I was ready to take this to the grave. But then, after I gave birth, his brother started making comments to me privately about how he thought the child was his, and if I was truly sure it belonged to my husband. I put an end to his dumb suspicions by telling him that just because we had a stupid moment together didn't mean he was the father. And I made it known to him that that was the last time I ever wanted to hear that from him again. He said he was going to believe my words since I was so sure, and that he was okay with not being the father. He said he was sincerely happy about that. But that wasn't going to shut his mouth. If I wanted him to be quiet about everything, then I should do as he said. He said he would give me a few days to think about it. I was weakened by everything. Who was he to blackmail me? I wasn't ready to cave in. So to fight back with a mental story I had prepared, one that would cross him out of my husband's life and mine forever. I needed to confirm who the father truly was, so I ran a paternity test. While waiting, I was praying and hoping the child was really my husband because I really wanted my plans to work out effectively. I saw his brother as a rat I needed to get rid of forever, and it was only this test result that would determine that. If the result showed he wasn't the father, I could just make up a story that he wanted to take advantage of me. Since I didn't let him, he threatened to lie to my husband about us sleeping together. I made this all up in my head, knowing he had no evidence to prove otherwise. It might be an evil thing to do, but it was the only right thing to do at the moment. Unfortunately for me, when the result came out, my husband wasn't the father, his brother was. I was angry at myself. I cried and cried, but I knew there was nothing I could do. I had to give in to my husband's brother's will, because that day that the result came in was the last day of his patience, according to him. So I told him I was ready to do whatever he wanted, as long as he didn't tell my husband about it. And that's when the blackmail started. Turns out this rubbish man was having money issues, and he wanted me to be his personal bank account. So every bit of money I worked hard for or saved was used for his personal consumption. This was the promise. As long as I didn't stop helping him out financially, he would never have a problem with me. He will come in months after months demanding for more. I got exhausted at one point and ignored his messages, but then he showed up at our place and acted all funny, using subtle ways to threaten me and leave suspicious remarks. Out of fear, I had to give in again. I was scared of how dangerous he was becoming. That wasn't the person I knew. He was this young and pure soul, but then he looked like that part of him I knew was masked. I was scared when he was around my baby, and most times I freaked out just seeing him. He was dealing with me mentally and emotionally, and I couldn't take it any longer. I needed to free myself. I couldn't survive it anymore. I was completely drained, and sometimes I even stole from my husband to give him. It was drying me out. My husband noticed how worn out I was and asked me several times if I was okay. I said I was okay and that it was just the outcome of motherhood. My husband was actually sweet during that period. He was really supportive, and it was because of him I was able to survive. So I made up my mind to tell him. I wasn't ready to be controlled by his brother forever. I thought if I told him, he would actually understand me. So last week his brother told me he was traveling, and I was going to sponsor the trip. I didn't care about the sponsoring. I actually was grateful. Good riddance, you know. But that joy was cut short in split seconds when he told me his trip was only going to last a few days, so I shouldn't think he was done with me yet. I lashed out and asked him how long his blackmail was going to last, and if I hadn't done enough to pay for what I did behind my husband's back. He said I thought my money could solve everything when I was clearly deceiving his brother, that my money wasn't enough to erase what I did, and that I would have to pay for it for the rest of my life as long as he existed. He made it look like I was the only one who did something bad when it was clearly the two of us. So why was I the only one suffering? I couldn't bear it. So after my husband's brother left for his trip, I was finally having the best time ever with my husband. I had peace of mind after a long while, and I knew that wasn't going to last. So I had to stop thinking and actually tell him. But I didn't know how to, so when my husband popped that question, I had to use that opportunity to come clean. Then he walked out. Anyway, when he returned a few days later, he came back with the confirmation that I was actually telling the truth. He did a paternity test to prove it because he could never believe I'd cheat on him. So when he came back to confront me, I was sad at his reaction. I told him I waited for him so I could explain why things were the way they were at the moment. Judging from his reaction, I knew my husband wouldn't just listen to me. I needed to give him something to keep him from walking away. I had already prepared for that moment just in case. This was my way of killing two birds with one stone, protecting my home while destroying his brother forever. So I lied. I told him that his brother had been trying to take advantage of me for a while, which was why he was hostile towards me, because I refused his advances, and that I didn't want to tell my husband because I didn't have any proof in case his brother twisted the story. Then the next morning, I was shocked to realize that his brother had drugged me and taken advantage of me when he came over during the time my husband wasn't around. At that moment, I saw my husband's anger lessen. He was more worried. I started crying, telling him I was ashamed and couldn't bear to tell anyone because I didn't want to be seen that way. I was terrified and traumatized. I made sure my story was believable, explaining why I was struggling because of that and why I had to share the truth with him, and that I hated keeping it from him, but I was suffocating and couldn't live like that anymore. I cried my heart out and begged him to promise that he would make sure his brother was going to be punished and be removed from our lives forever because I was deeply traumatized by his presence. I could feel my husband's blood boiling, but he didn't say a word. Instead, he comforted me and gently put me to sleep. Fast forward to the day his brother was coming back. We decided to confront him with a family meeting. Just his immediate family was gathered. I didn't want any extra crowd because I couldn't bear people looking at me like I was some kind of victim. Anyways, that's what I told my husband. That day was the first time his mother looked at me with kind eyes, and even his sister seemed to soften toward me. We were all waiting when his brother arrived, and he was visibly shocked to walk into the house and see everyone gathered. The tension was thick and was deeply felt by him even before he could drop his bag. I noticed my husband's hand ball into a fist, barely holding himself back. I had already warned him that his brother would try to twist the story, and that he had threatened me once when I confronted him. So I told my husband not to believe a single word that came out of his mouth. His family didn't waste any time diving into the situation. He was bombarded with questions, and they expressed how utterly disappointed they were in him. He acted confused and angry, trying to defend himself. Then, my husband asked me to repeat exactly what I had told him. So I laid it all out, crying, dramatic, and visibly devastated and haunted. But to my surprise, his brother pulled out a recording. It was of me pleading with him not to tell my husband about what happened, promising to do whatever he wanted. He then apologized to his brother, admitting his actions were terrible, but claimed I was the one who didn't belong in the family, saying I was worse than the devil. Everyone's eyes turned back to me. I was completely ashamed and speechless. Their harsh words hit me hard, leaving me broken and silent. I was close to having a heart attack. I thought I had the upper hand, but I was wrong. Things were already bad enough, and my husband hadn't even told his family about who the biological father really was, and yet everything was falling apart. I'm exhausted and drained. I'm not here asking for advice or pity. I never wanted to be the villain. I just wanted some understanding. But sadly, my husband hates me now. He doesn't seem to understand why I did what I did. He left the house and won't answer my calls. Update. My husband's brother came around a week later. I'm guessing my husband told him everything. He walked in, looking like a ticking time bomb. The next thing I knew, he pushed me against the wall so hard I lost my breath for a second. He looked me dead in the eye and told me I should be grateful he wasn't a monster. Because if he were, he said, he would have destroyed me for being so evil. He told me he now understood why he never liked me in the first place, that good spirits couldn't stand being around someone as dark as me. He called me every name you can think of. He said I was manipulative, heartless, wicked, and a liar. He told me I should never come close to our daughter again. Then just like that, he took her away from me. I cried, I begged, I dropped to my knees, but he didn't care. He said I was a danger to her, that I was unstable and that I was cursed. He didn't even let me say goodbye properly. He kept her at his parents' house, and they didn't object. No one did. They all looked at me like I was a plague. The next day I got served divorce papers from my husband. He didn't even hesitate. He just dropped cold papers at my door. I tried to call him. I tried to reach out, but still, there was no response. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't even want an explanation from me. He said he was completely done with me, that there was no point salvaging anything. He won custody too, full custody. I didn't even get a chance. The evidence, the lies I told, everything I did, and every other thing they made up, he used them all against me. And honestly, I couldn't even fight it. I didn't stand a chance in court. My voice didn't matter anymore. Apparently, I'm only allowed to visit her, our daughter, under certain conditions like I'm some kind of threat. Like I didn't carry her for 9 months. Like I didn't give birth to her. She's being taken care of by his family now. His mom, the same one who never liked me from the start, is now the one holding my child's hand, tucking her into bed, and calling herself her protector. The same woman who looked at me like I was dirt. That's who gets to be there for her now. And my ex-husband's brother, he doesn't live with them anymore. He moved out after everything, but he still goes there to see her. He doesn't stay long, but he shows up. I know all these details because I asked around like a fool, just hoping for some piece of good news. But there is none. Everyone hates me now. Friends, family, neighbors. People talk about me like I'm a trash bin. They gossip at every opportunity they have. It's sad because they don't even know half of what happened, but they've made up their minds. Still, I can't help but wish. I wish my husband, my ex-husband, had just tried to understand. I wish he saw how hard I was trying to protect what we had, how scared I was of losing everything. I didn't do all this because I didn't love him. I did it because I did, because I couldn't imagine losing him. I couldn't imagine him walking away from me. Was I wrong? Yes, 100%. I was wrong in how I handled everything, but was it evil? No, I was desperate. I was trapped. I made bad choices in the name of love, and now I'm paying the price. Most nights I can't even sleep. I just sit in the dark and replay everything in my head. The moment I first lied, the moment I let fear win, the moment I could have told the truth and didn't. I think about my daughter, about how one day she'll grow up and maybe hear a version of the story that makes me look like a monster. Perhaps she'll never know the whole truth, or maybe she'll never want to. I try not to cry anymore, but the tears still come. Quiet, bitter tears that leave stains on my pillow. I try to be strong. I try to accept that this is my life now, that the man I loved more than anything can't even look me in the eye, that my child is growing up without me, that I have to live with the consequences of my choices. The worst of it all is that I'm broke. How do I even start from here? No house, no money to feed, nothing at all. It's frustrating, and I hope I healed from all these damages they did to me one day.